Let's begin with the mystery of life, I said. And there is no unambiguous definition of life in natural sciences, but only a set of criteria that must be met. Some of life's common features are reproduction, metabolism, response to stimuli, and homeostasis, that is self-regulation. And all these functions are seen in the natural sciences as complex reactions of various physical substances contained in a living organism, and are then described in biology and biochemistry. That means that the natural sciences sees life as something physical. But how about Martinus' view of a life? Well, life is really the main focus in Martinus' spiritual science. There is nothing but life in the universe, according to Martinus. But how does he describe life? Well, here we can see both simplicities, but also deeper complexities in his analysis of life. The simple thing is that all life, from particles in microcosmos to plants, animals, humans, planets, galaxies, and even the universe, has the same innermost basic analysis. And that makes it perhaps a little easier, but still quite difficult, I think. So let us first look at the living universe. And of course, it will be some repetition. I will show the same symbols as Mary, but I think that's okay. You know, repetition is the mother of knowledge, they say. Well, the first symbol in Martinus' book, The Eternal World Picture, is called the Spirit of God upon the face of the water. And we can say that this is a section of the universe. And we can see it as a symbolic picture of the real Big Bang. And it didn't happen 14 billion years ago. No, it's an eternal, ongoing process of creating, no beginning and no end. The universe has no age, and in fact, no size at all. Infinity is no size. It's just something that is. Well, we see here, spirit is the same as consciousness, and that exists behind all the creative processes in the universe. And all created emanates from this cosmic consciousness, will and power of a living universe. Now, this total universe has also been called God, and its consciousness is called the Spirit of God. And also, like Mary said, water is a symbol of water. Of matter. So the light symbol up there, from where the rays emanates, symbolizes the creating something that is, or the Godhead. And the flaming cross symbolizes the Godhead's total perfect manifestation or creation, and the radiating seas symbolizes the Godhead's all-penetrating creative spirit, consciousness, and will. And the many circles here symbolizes the suns and the planet in the universe and its conscious and mental life. And here in the middle, with the double circles, we have the earth and its mental life on it. So we see here that everything in the universe or cosmos, that is all life, is permeated of this cosmic consciousness. So not just macrocosmos, but also microcosmos and mesocosmos, where we humans, animals, and all plants are experiencing life. So a little summary of the life of the universe, and I've written life, that's God's eternal eye, creative and power and consciousness that permeates the entire universe, the eternal light of love. And also Martinus said the keynote of the universe is the divine universal love. And we can see here on this symbol that it is this undivided field of consciousness. We can say that all living beings in the universe is surfing on this cosmic field of consciousness. Can call it a cosmic web. So here that's really what life is. It's God's eternal cosmic consciousness that is the life of every being. And the famous quantum physicist Erwin Schrödinger was right when he said 400 years ago, quote, "The total number of minds or consciousness in the universe is one." So Schrödinger was very interested in philosophy and especially the Upanishads. That's Hindu philosophy. So what does this symbol tells us more? Well, it tells us that life is not something physical, but both the I and the energy of consciousness, our life, are something non-physical, something invisible or spiritual. What the materialistic science calls life is not life, but the reaction of life into physical matter, like biochemical reactions in our bodies. In the natural sciences, it's believed that consciousness has developed relatively late in the evolution of life here on Earth. Scientists theorize that consciousness has gradually developed in the animal kingdom when the brain and the nervous system reach a sufficiently high degree of complexity and specialization. Consciousness then, in that perspective, is a byproduct, a so-called epiphenomenon. The brain produces consciousness, thoughts, and will. Well, Martinus shows us something quite different. Life or consciousness can't arise from physical matter. The matter is a result of the eternal creator, or God's eye and God's eternal creation of consciousness. So, to fully understand what consciousness is, we must understand the analysis and the spiritual structure of a living being. And then we have the symbol number 6, the living being 1. And here we have the basic analysis of a living being. And this also Mary told us, but I take a little short repetition here. Martinus describes the living being as a triune principle. We have X1, X2, and X3. And in all living beings, there is an eternal I, which he also calls X1, the white triangle up here. This I, yeah. This I has an eternal desire for the experience of life, and that is the primordial desire, which connects with the eternal ability to create experience, that is X2, which he also calls the superconsciousness. As a result of his eternal creative ability, there is always a result, namely the eternal life experience here in X3, which he calls subconsciousness, and which consists then of day consciousness and night consciousness. The violet color up here is the mother energy, and all main functions of life are rooted here in X2. And its disposal, the living being has 6 basic energies or spiritual bodies that are regulated by the seventh energy up here, the mother energy in X2. So everything in the universe is created by a mixture of these basic energies of consciousness. And they call them the energy of energy of instinct, the energy of gravity, the energy of feeling, the energy of intelligence, the energy of intuition, and the energy of memory. All these 6 basic energies are always present in varying degrees in all creations in the universe. So all creation, both in the physical world and the spiritual world, are a combination of these 6 energies of consciousness. The I, or X1, thus, is the innermost creator and the one who experiences, and that is beyond time and space. And that also means that it's identical with eternity and infinity, but also the absolute stillness. The I, or X1, can also be said that one can say that consciousness is the eternal life of X1. So that was a very short summary of the cosmic anatomy of all living beings, which we have seen also is the same as life itself. Life is always the experience of life in living beings. But all living beings, and also the Godhead, can't experience life by itself alone. No, it must be a meeting of minds or consciousness. It is in the meeting that the life experience can arise. So how is that done? Yeah, we have here symbol number 11, the eternal world picture, the living being 2, and the eternal Godhead and the eternal sons of God. When we consider this symbol as an expression from the Godhead, then the white star in the middle and the rays emanating from it indicate the Godhead or the Father, while the white areas here and the emanating rays expresses the sons of God, that is all living beings in the universe. And the color fields here constitute the reactions of the meeting between the Father's consciousness and the living being's consciousness. And here in the meeting here we have the created world. Here is all life experience here in X3, in the physical world and in the spiritual worlds. It must be that meeting of consciousness. Not one single creation can be found in the universe that is not the result of the reaction between those 2 energies. But then comes the question, how can the Godhead's I be split up into all living beings' eyes, the sons of God? Well, then we have to go back to X2, or the faculty to create in the living being's super consciousness. Here we have the magical principle that seemingly can divide the divine X1 or the Godhead's I into all individuals' eyes. Unity and oneness become diversity or plurality. That is the magical creation of illusions that are the foundation of creating the experience of life. I will come back to the creation of illusions, but I will now take a look on the mystery of matter. And here we have a quote from Martinus on matter. In its deepest analysis, matter is thus a combination of stars. It's a nebula, a Milky Way. The primordial form of matter is thus a nebula. From nebulae, everything is created. Everything we see, whether it's solid, liquid, or gaseous matter, whether it's earth, air, water, or mineral, is in its basic analysis nebulae. And it's interesting because here is a meeting point between Martinus life science and the natural sciences, and that is the quantum physics, which both explore the stars in the microcosmos or the atomic world. So, what is matter? That is what they tried to understand in particle physics, or quantum mechanics as it was named. And this question has occupied researchers for many centuries. But it was not until the 20th centuries that it became a major area of research. Famous names such as Einstein, Bohr, Heisenberg, Planck, and Schrödinger were all involved in particle physics or quantum mechanics. And it was Max Planck who described that the energy in microcosmos is quantized, which means that it consists of small energy packages or quantum or wave particles. And it is called the wave-particle duality. And this happened, in fact, on December 14th, 1900, and that year is usually counted as the birth of modern physics. And the interpretation of the so-called wave-particle duality that won the most sympathizers was Niels Bohr's. And his pragmatic interpretation of quantum mechanics is called the Copenhagen interpretation. And the essence, somewhat simplified, that nothing can be said about quantum physical systems until a measurement has been made. A particle is simply has no definite position until one tries to measure it. And that is, it's a wave function. But through the measurement or observation, the wave function collapses, a word they use, and you get a particle, or even better, it looks like a particle. And that means that matter is not physical, but waves, electromagnetic waves, the world of consciousness. And the electromagnetic forces are mediated by photons, that is light. That is what modern physical says about light. So here we can see that electricity is the outside or the physical side of consciousness. You can measure the brain waves, the waves of thought on on the outside of the skull, the EEG, while the inside of this electricity or consciousness is the experience of life, thoughts and feelings. That means that all electricity and magnetism in the universe are living beings' consciousness. That is really something to consider. So gravitation, dark energy, dark matter, and all forces and energies in cosmos are electromagnetic fields of consciousness in living beings. And consciousness is always a combination of the 6 basic energies that builds up all matter. But it is especially the state of tension between the energy of gravity and the energy of feeling, a restrained explosive force, Martinus calls it, fire or light, that is creating the physical matter and also all forces in the universe and the life force in every living being. So it can be said that the tension between the energy of gravity, which has an outward force direction, and the energy of feeling, which has an inward force direction, that is the very dynamic, cosmic dynamic engine that lies behind the formation of all matter, life force, light, but also all movements. So what is happening in that state of tension between the energy of gravity, that's heat, and the energy of feeling, cold? Yeah, the tension between the energy of feeling, coldness, and the energy of gravity, heat, triggers lightning and fire, light or photons to enter the tension field. So what do I mean by that? Well, you get a picture of this process if you study a thundercloud. What is needed for a thunderbolt to release in this cloud? There has to be a temperature difference within the cloud. A certain voltage stage between cold and heat. That is the tension between the energy of feeling, cold, and the energy of gravity, heat, that triggers lightning and fire. Light or photons enter the tension field. And I used to say a door has been opened to the kingdom of bliss, and microcosmic sun, that is photons, incarnate and illuminate the dark thunder sky. All living beings incarnate from the kingdom of bliss, and they all go through a state of fire on their way to the physical incarnation. And when the microcosmic suns are in this transition, and this is important, they are used as the matter that builds up everything in the physical world. Matter as hidden fire, but of course also electricity and magnetism, radiating matter, which is the same as consciousness matter and mental matter. So we now have the solution to the mystery of matter. It is waves of consciousness that meets waves of consciousness. And in this encounter, this fertilization, suns or atoms can incarnate, which for us is experienced as solid matter. These microsuns or this microcosmic fire matter, which is the only building block of the physical world, are also, in the cosmic perspective, only non-physical vibrating energy waves, a mixture of the 6 basic energies, but with dominance of the energy of gravity and the energy of feeling. And Martinus also describes matter as light. Matter is simply light. And he also put out any kind of substance or matter is then in reality a vision of light. Think about that. And this one is really tough. On the physical plane, nothing has ever existed and will never exist other than motion. There is no living being, no substance, time or space here at all. Here only movements exist. No life, no matter on the physical plane. That's very hard to grasp, especially for a materialist. And you can see that this is really idealism that we have heard of today also. Really idealism. At least some researchers in quantum physics have actually come to the same conclusion as Martinus. There are only wave motion that becomes solid matter, or more precisely, appears to become solid matters, first in the meeting with an observer, or a better description, a participant. All living beings in the universe are indispensable participants or co-creators with their sensory structures, fields of consciousness, the I and the superconsciousness. Our sensory organs are so constructed that they can only interact with energies in a certain limited spectrum that our brain and our nervous system can translate, so these non-physical frequencies appear seemingly as solid matter. In other words, solid matter is an illusion. It is something other than what it appears to be. And how come? Well, I will look here in my book to take a. I will read from it. And I wrote there, our mesocosmic perspective thus creates the illusion of solid matter. It occurs because the atomic world in microcosmos is so distant from our perspective. It has been a very long time since we were nuclear beings in that microspiral. What is far away in the experience horizon always seems to be small. It shrinks into microcosmos. So you can see that the principle of perspective is really a magical principle that allows stillness to appear as motion in the mesocosmos, while the stars in macrocosmos and the stars in microcosmos appears to stand more or less still, despite their rapid movements from their own cosmic perspective. So we can really see here that the principle of perspective is this magical principle, and it's also called X2. And I will end with a reflection on this illusion making from God's perspective, and I called it the illusionist. And I will take it very slowly because it is so much in it. I take from my innermost source of stillness, creating images of something that is. A contrast to my eternal oneness becomes diversity through different perspectives. I hide infinity in patterns of light that can be measured with physical senses. My thoughts create time and endless space, the illusory solid matter. But the illusion is real, a necessity of life, to give a picture of my true eternal being. So are you all mirrors in my sensory structure that reflect my eternal I am. Yes, that was what I had to say. I think. Stop share. Okay.